Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another webinar. Not sure how you're watching these. There's a whole series of them, so I don't know if this is the first, last, somewhere in the middle, but hello. This session is going to talk about Chrome supports, again, but talk about it from the focus of executive function supports. So looking at how to support our diverse learners through Chrome, using it as a support for executive function. If this is your first webinar, hello, my name is Mike, and I am an assistive technology specialist. I will be your guide through this half hour-ish or so time as we look at tools for executive function that are wrapped around in Chrome. If you go through this, and I would encourage you as you look at it and watch it, if something hits you, pause the video and go explore. I'll still be here when you get back. It's fine, I'm not going anywhere. But I want you to use this information, and hopefully you find something valuable that kind of piques your interest as like a moment of your aha moment, if you will, of like, oh, I should go check that out. So do that. As you go through, if you think of things, questions or ideas, or you're struggling to figure out how you could implement something, reach out to me. There's my email address. It's mike@mmatp.com, and there's my website address also. I am happy to chat with you about this. We can have a conversation through email. We can pop on a video call and have a chat, whatever you want to do. I'm game, so please feel free. Know that I'm here if you want some support as you move forward. Because ultimately you want to implement this information. So here's our plan for our webinar for this little short learning module. We'll talk about how we can support people using Chrome tools. Those are both the Google Suite tools, looking at them for executive function, and then also some specific apps and extensions that we can add into an account to provide some support as well. And then I'll throw out some next steps for you. Hopefully you'll come up with your own next steps as you're looking through this. And like I said, maybe something will grab you and you say, oh, that's what I'm going to use this for. So definitely think about that as you go. The slides are out there. So obviously you have the recording because you're watching it now. But if you want the slides too, some of the slides have links in them. I know when I go through some of the extensions and apps, I've linked those tools to the slides so you could click directly on them to go to the store to download them. So if you want the slides, they are at this link, which is bit.ly/mmatp-ef. So all the slides live there. You can have access to them to go along with the recording that you're watching now. So as we go through this, I'm going to continue to think about this way that we incorporate Google tools into a classroom environment, whether that classroom is in person or virtual or a mix, whatever it might be, but also thinking about this idea of how the Chrome tools can support us in a UDL mindset, thinking about how we can provide options, multiple means of engagement, representation, action, and expression. How do we do that through the tools that we incorporate into the experience for our students to meet their unique needs? Again, that's what makes things assistive technology, right? Unique tools to solve unique needs. We're looking at features of tools to solve needs. So that's as we go through, that's my thought. We'll start with the Google Suite. So tools that come with your Google account that we could think about to support executive function. What do they look like? How can we use them? What are some creative ways to use some of those features to support our learners? When we think about executive function, I mean, this is probably where we all start, right? A calendar. What does that calendar look like? How do I set it up? What are some of the supports that I embed in that calendar to make sure that the student can be successful? And for that matter, when I think about this area specifically, executive function support, this is for us too. I mean, look, you're looking at my calendar right there. That's some of the stuff. Don't look at it too hard. I probably should have looked to see what was on there, but that's okay. I did a quick screenshot just to give you a sense of what was there. But as you look at that little screen grab, a couple things jump out automatically that we can start to think of as strategies to support our executive function. You are seeing my strategies in full effect there, which is color coding and organization by putting everything in the calendar. Again, calendars are tricky because everyone uses them, and everyone uses them a little bit differently. I bet if we were live right now and chatting with each other, each of us would have a slightly different way we use our calendar. I do a lot with multiple calendars that are color-coded so I can see different projects. As an independent consultant, I have different projects with different timelines that have different activities that need to be completed. So it's all about color coding. If you look on the left-hand side there, towards the bottom on the left, it says My Calendars. If you've never played with this, multiple calendars there, including my personal consulting calendar, which is blue. I have a part-time job as the director of our state, the state of New Jersey, the director of our Assistive Technology Act project. So that is the ATAC of DRNJ. That calendar pops up too, and that is in kind of an orangey color. And then I have some other, I do a consulting for a school district, which you can see on there, which is a maroon. So all of those things start to fill in the schedule and give me a quick view of what's coming up, what project it's for, and how to make sure I'm continuing to move forward. That evolved over time, and I'm sure all of you have systems that evolved over time to help support you with this process of a calendar. Using this with our students is no different. This will evolve over time. Calendars tend to be very trial and error in my mind. We look at something, we try something, we talk about it with the individual. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We ditch it, we keep it. I don't know. We have to keep talking about it. And eventually they work towards something. I'm one of those people that puts every single thing in my calendar. Tasks that I need to do, steps towards an ultimate goal of something. Right? You think about that. A lot of times we put calendar items in. What do? We put them in the day they're due. I put in milestones in between to make sure, but that's a strategy that I've developed over time for myself. I wouldn't wish my calendar on anyone because it works for me, but I think it would probably hurt your head just a little bit if you looked at it. But when you think about this, all of these strategies we can do that pop up right within the calendar. Your title of your activity, is it all day? Does it have a certain time frame to it? Does it repeat? Can I add a location in? Do I get notifications before something's going to happen? Mine is automatically set for 10 minutes. So 10 minutes before everything, I get an email and a notification pops up on my phone. I change that for certain things and I bounce it back a little bit for a day before, 2 days before, whatever it might be. And I add a lot of notes in my calendar items. Under the description piece, I put a lot of information in there. Things I need to do, steps that have to be completed before that happens, anything at all. I just fill that with a lot of information. And I think talking with our students to get them to effectively use a calendar goes beyond just simply getting things in there. It's how we get them in. Do we do it consistently? Does it become a process that they do second nature, that they put things in there and then it shows up? Because now ultimately, once it's in the calendar, what happens? It comes to my phone, it comes to my tablet, it comes to my watch. All of those things help me go forward, but the key to the whole piece, basically the cement holding it all together, was the calendar at that point. And so thinking about what that looks like as you go forward and how that sets up for an individual. And also, I can see calendar events in my other Google Suite tools. So there's a screenshot of Google Docs. If you've never noticed, on the right-hand side, Google Docs has that little toolbar with a couple icons in it. One of them is the calendar. So I can look at my calendar as I'm working on a doc, and I can start dropping things in either from the document into my calendar or from my calendar into the document. So I have this ability to see it at the same time. And that little toolbar on the right-hand side shows up in most of your G Suite tools. Docs, slides, sheets, calendar. It pops up in all of those. So thinking about using that, using the features that we have as we go forward. Here's our other favorite friend in the G Suite that looks at organization and executive function and support. It's your drive. How do you manage your drive? And you know, some of us will honestly say we manage it not well, but we manage it. But how do you do that? Again, there's options there. Color coding, folders, looking at things through the left-hand side, whether it's things that are shared with you or things that have been recently open or things that you've starred, some way to organize that a bit so it's easy and quick to find them as you go forward. And our friend in Google Drive that I'm always pointing people towards to get better at using is the search. If you're not sure what lives in your drive or it doesn't end up in a folder, because we all have been there, me too. I have folders at the top, but then if you go down a certain level in my Google Drive, it is what I would call a nightmare. It's just stuff that's not sorted, it's just sitting there. But if you use the drive, you can type in any search term and it will search for all your documents that have that term in them. That's a basic search. That's a good strategy to use. If you've never done the advanced search, in the search bar, click on the little arrow on the far right, and you can break that down even further. The type of document you're looking for. I'm looking for a Google Doc, or I'm looking for a slide. Who's the owner of it? So if someone shared it with me, I might put their name in there. Where might it be? What was the last time it was modified? Search terms in it, things I might have shared it, other people I might have shared it with. Those are your advanced search terms and your tools that you can use to search. So when I start to think about this idea of organizing students, I always start with the idea, let's make folders, let's organize in folders. But when it inevitably falls apart a bit, the instant backup is to remind the student that just use the search. Try that. It will help you. It will get you to where you need to be. It's a shame that we only have a half hour to talk to each other right now, because I could talk to you for 2 days about this, I feel like. Google Keep. If you don't use it, you are missing out on probably the greatest, in my mind, the greatest part of the Google suite of tools. Google Keep is a tool to help you take all of those things. I don't know how many of you are Post-it note fanatics like myself, where you write everything on a Post-it note. Google Keep, imagine it is your virtual Post-it note tool. It is a tool for note-taking, organization, time management. You can do research with it. You could create to-do lists. There's so much more you can do. It's part of your account. If you've never used it, it's just sitting there right now. You have Google Keep, whether you've used it or not. It's part of your G suite of tools. If you've never experienced it or never played with it, if you're on the computer right now, pause me. Well, don't pause me yet. I haven't told you what to do. Open up a new browser tab. Type in keep.google.com. Okay, now you can pause me. Now you're back. I don't know whether you're left or not. But when you went out there, that is your Google Keep. It's connected to your Google account and it's waiting there for you. That follows you everywhere. If I write something on my phone, I use Google Keep as the note-taking tool on my phone. When I go to a professional development, a meeting, when I'm just sitting in my car. I don't sit in my car much anymore, but when I do sit in my car and I have to write myself notes, I write them in Google Keep. And then they instantly sync everywhere else. When I write it in my phone, I can go to my computer and it shows up. I can go to my iPad and it shows up. I can open my Chromebook and it shows up. It comes across everywhere. Works everywhere. I can add notes from anywhere and they will automatically sync up and be available to me everywhere. Think about this idea. I'll break down Google Keep a little bit. And again, we only have a half hour, so we won't go too deep into it. And I'll probably just use it from screenshots. But I would encourage you, maybe pause me every once in a while and go off and explore. You think about this idea of organization. What are some of the key features for organization of these notes? You can take pictures and connect them to a note. You can color code them. With Google Keep, you have the ability to label notes. So it's a little different. It's not like Google Drive where you drop things in folders, but instead you label things. The powerful thing is you can label it with multiple labels. So the couple examples up there, the label I have in that one, and that's not my real Google Keep. I've decided to not show my real Google Keep to people because it's just too much. So I made up one from another account I have. The label for that says coaching on that red note there. Now, as I write more notes, those notes will just continue to drive down towards the bottom, and new notes will be at the top, and then the older ones will be further down. But I don't have to scroll through everything. I just have to look on the left-hand side where it says labels and click on the coaching label. Every note I've connected with that label will pop up and show it to me on the screen. You notice some of the other strategies I'll use is that I use a lot with color. So certain labels or certain activities will be certain colors. Coaching is red. When I go to a presentation or a conference, those notes are always orange. And then I label them with conference, and then I label it with the name of the conference that I was at, so I can search for it both ways. Because I mean, how many times have you gone to something and you write yourself a note, and then someone asks you something on that same topic like 6 months later, and you're like, I went to a session on that once. I remember the conference I was at, right? We always remember some of those pieces. I remember the conference. I remember where I was sitting. I remember who was next to me, but I couldn't tell you what the note was about. Well, now I can go back into my Google Keep, and because I use that for all my note-taking for all the conferences I go to, all I have to do is search the label for that conference, and it all pops up, and then I can find it. So this idea of being able to quickly manage your information is critical. You can connect reminders to that. So I can say that that red note on the screen right there has a reminder connected to it that was going to remind me through my calendar as a notification the next day to look at that book. I can do that. I can set time-based reminders. I can also set location-based reminders to where the Google Keep uses GPS data to see where you are. I can set notes for myself that when I get home and I pull in the driveway, the note reminder pops up for myself. When I was traveling out to schools for consulting, I would get to a school and sometimes not remember who I was there to see. Poor executive function support. But I would put that in my Google Keep, and it would pop up when I got into the parking lot of the school and say, you're here to see this student today. Go meet with that staff member. So this idea of being able to do that. You could see on that yellow note, you can also do checklists. So I can do check boxes and just check off lists. It's a really nice thing. I use that a lot for social stories for a student or steps to a process like a visual schedule. Do these steps. As you check them off, you'll notice it goes to the bottom of that note with a line through it, like a strike-through line. When I'm done, I can go to the bottom of that note and just click those, and the strike will come out of it and it will drop back up in the note. So I could basically use the same note every day. I have students use that to navigate their day, their schedule throughout the day. They just have that note at the very top, and they just check them off as they go, and when they're done, they bring them all back up to the top, and they're ready for the next day. So thinking about how you could use that. You could also collaborate with others. It's like every other Google tool. I could share one of my Google Keep notes with you, and it would show up in yours. Anything you did to it would show up on mine, and we would have this real-time collaboration back and forth to make sure that we could use it. Here's some examples of ways to organize yourself. The example on the left on the slide comes from Casey Bell from Shake Up Learning, but I love her idea of how to set up Keep, where it's each period of the student's day had checklists of information that they had to make sure they did. And it's color-coded, and it says first period, second period, third period. There's a daily tasks, there's something for at home, there's learning goals, and the students can sort where something goes in those little checkbox notes on Keep, which is a really cool way to do that. So I love that she came up with that idea. I think that's awesome. On the right side is one of the ways I've helped some students be more organized. Many of the students I work with have this IEP accommodation that says, take pictures of the board for assignments. Okay? A lot of times they will take pictures of the board and they will just take that in the photo roll of their phone and it will just live there. You ask them to go back and look at it. What do they have to do? They have to scroll through to search for that picture and then figure out how to do something with that picture. Well, now, if I take that picture in Keep and I put the date and the class from that note and I color code it so every history note is red, tells me the date, what I had to do, and I attach a tag to it that says history. Now when someone says to me, what is your history homework? All I click on is the label for history and just those notes pop up. Suddenly I have something that's a workable solution because it's an accommodation with a strategy wrapped around it to make sure that it works for a student. And so that's a really nice way. I've been doing that a lot more with students because I'm in a lot of Google schools. So they have this tool. It's a tool they have. It's available to them. We don't have to buy it. It's there already. We just have to start using it. So a really nice way. You could see why I'd be able to talk about Keep for like 2 days, but I'm going to stop myself at some point. Remember search, what I talked about in Google Drive? Same thing here. There is a search here. You can type words into the search bar and it will search everything for that. Notice some of the other ways you can search in Keep. You can search for types of notes you wrote. Was it a reminder or a list? Did it have a picture in it? Was it a recording? Are you searching for your labels? You can go through and just search for each label and pull those out. And the last one underneath there, just as it goes off the screen, is people. Have I shared notes or has someone shared a note with me? Can I search them that way? So that search is just as powerful in Keep as it is in Google Drive. And again, I mentioned that toolbar before when I talked about your calendar. If you've been looking at that toolbar now, you notice the Keep icon is over there too. So you can have your Keep note show up on the right-hand side of any kind of document you're working on. Now, you can use Google Keep as a research tool. Maybe you take some notes about things you want to write about, an assignment you're working on. You open up those notes when you're in a word processing doc, and all I have to do now is click on the note and drag it into Google Docs and it goes there, and the text shows up. So now this idea of going back and forth and providing me with a level of support in one window. I work with a lot of students who, the minute I ask them to close a window and open up another app, they struggle. It's too many steps, there's too many ways that they can get lost in the process. But what if my Keep shows up here, my document is right here, and I can move things back and forth across in the same view? Really powerful for a student. There's also an extension. There's an extension that you can put in your Chrome browser called the Save to Keep extension. And any website you go to, just simply click the little icon, which is the little Keep icon on your toolbar, and it will automatically create a note in your Google Keep for you and allow you to type into it. It will give you the link to that page and a space to write a note. So I could do this. I have a lot of students use this as a research tool. They do research on websites. They click the Save to Keep, it gives them the link of where they found it, and then they write their notes underneath it that they're going to use for the paper or for the assignment they're working on. And now it all lives in one spot. Again, it's all about bringing things together, giving them one place to go search for things. So another great way to use Keep. I will stop myself from using Keep, from talking about Keep right now. Keep will show up, if you've watched them already, you've seen it, in some of the other webinars as well. You'll see some of the other features of Keep. I decided to break them apart a little bit so I could get myself away from Google Keep and not just go down the Keep spiral and never come out. Here's one G Suite support that I would challenge you to try out. It may work for you and maybe not, but it's something that's there. Again, it's called Google Tasks. It is a task list organizer. Maybe that works for you. That is the other icon in your toolbar. If you look on the right hand side, right underneath my icon picture in that Google Doc, you see the three icons. You see the calendar, Keep, and Tasks is the third one. So that will also show up in all of those other tools. So maybe that's a way you could dig deeper. Try that. Again, I think it's so important to look at the things we have before we start dropping in tons of other stuff for students. I think people typically want to jump right into adding extensions and apps. And we have to take that moment and stop and say, do we really need to add more? And with that said, I will stop us, and I will not stare at this for like the next 20 minutes because I love this animated GIF. When I show you apps and extensions, we're not doing a shopping list here. You don't need all of these, but maybe some of them have the features you need. Maybe you don't need any of them for the student you're working with. Maybe their needs can be met by what's already in their Google Suite. So I'll show you some of these as examples, but it's not meant to say you should get them all or that you need them all. But instead, we look at them through the SET framework, right? How many times are we going to see this in the webinars I've recorded, and even the other ones that you're going to watch? Remember the SET framework. What are the students' needs and abilities? What are the environments they're using tools in? What are the tasks they need to accomplish? Those three things define the tool that we need. If your needs are being met by the tools you have, great, good news. You don't need any other tools. That's good. You don't want to have more tools. Why make things more complicated than we have to? So keep that in mind as you go through it, the SET framework, and thinking about some of these ways to help organize. So let me share some extensions with you. And again, these aren't all of them, but these are some of the ones that I use and that I encourage teams to look at when they're looking to support a student. The first one that I always point to people is called Extensity. This is an extension to manage your extensions. If you're looking at the top of my address bar right now in this slide presentation, you see a lot of icons up there of extensions that I have. They're all on, they're all ready to go, but there's many more that I have that I might have turned off right now. Anywhere I am in the Chrome browser, if I click on this little Extensity icon, which is kind of that yin and yang symbol, it opens up for you an entire drop-down menu of extensions. There's extensions, and then underneath it is all apps. I feel you judging me through the recording for how many tools I have, but that's okay, I'll get over it. But it's a really nice way to organize. It's a free tool, helps you organize them. What's really nice in that list is anything that's gray is turned off, anything that's bolded is turned on. When we start thinking about the Chromebooks, the more extensions you load and the more that you have running at any given time, the slower your Chromebook is going to run. So if you're not using them, you want to get in the habit of turning some of them off. And so Extensity will give you that power through that drop-down menu to turn things on and off. Maybe it's about the visual representation on the screen, helping somebody navigate. And so this is a tool called Visor that basically puts a colored lens over the screen. You can adjust the color, it gives you a reading window, but sometimes that's enough for focus and to help somebody navigate through a page. Another free one. Noteboard, if Google Keep wasn't good for you, maybe something like Noteboard might work for you. Noteboard is a Chrome app that allows you to create a new browser window that is a bulletin board. And you can just add notes to it. And you'll notice on the screen there, I have multiple tabs. It says Home and History, Science, Technology, and Personal. So there's multiple bulletin boards there. You can set this up. Once you log into it, it could follow you everywhere. In fact, one of the students I work with, this is their home screen when they open up the Chrome browser. It opens to this automatically so that they can see what they have to do, and then they open new tabs to go to something else. So this always stays open in that very first tab, and then they just add other tabs on. So that might be a solution too. This is a free tool. It allows you to add text and pictures and color, and you can drop things in there. You can share it with yourself if you make an account. So there's a lot of ways you can do that, but that is a free tool called Noteboard. Another one that I really like, and again, these might not work for everybody. They work for me though. This one is called Momentum. This is an extension that changes your new browser tab. So every time you open a new browser tab, it opens up to that. So that's what mine opens up to. It says, "Good afternoon, Mike." But the piece that I like for that executive function piece is, what is your main focus for today? And you notice that is a line. And I can log into this, write myself a main focus for the day, and then every time I open a new tab for the day, guess what shows up in that line? It says finish those webinars. Finish those webinars every time. You can also have a to-do list. I don't use the to-do list, but you could if you wanted to. I really use it for the focus piece. So now that shows up all the time. That's a free tool. You can use that as a new browser window opening. And I'm a sucker for something that says good morning to me and good afternoon with my name and the pictures. So that's simple, but that's good. That might be enough to give somebody the support they need with that to-do list and that main focus for the day. Just that constant reminder of something they need to do. If you want to go deeper into extensions, like I said, those were only some. We only had a half hour. I just wanted to show you a few. That might be a good start. But I have given you the link to this. So if you go back to the link for the slides, you can click on this picture. This is an app wheel from the call center in Scotland. And they do this. It's a Chromebook apps and extension wheels for learners with reading and writing difficulties. But one of the little areas of focus is organization. It's on the top left corner. It's at like that 10 o'clock. If you think about it from the clock face perspective, about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Organization. And it shows you some things to try. Maybe this is a way you want to explore. You're going to see this on the other webinars too, because I think it's a really nice next step. They've broken it down into main areas, and then within the purple part of the wheel is some apps and extensions you can try. Maybe those will work for you. See what is out there that might provide some support to the students you're working with. So as we near the end of this webinar, what are you going to do next? How are you going to use this? So we talk about those small steps. Take that minute to reflect. I've said it in all of them so far. Take a minute when you're done. Write down some things you might want to do. Pause it right now and write down something you might want to do. How could you use this to help the students you work with, yourself, your coworkers, whoever it might be? Talk to the students about what they think they need. Get their buy-in by including them from the beginning. You don't get much buy-in when you walk up to somebody and say, good news, you are now using an electronic calendar to manage yourself. And they don't want to use an electronic calendar. So that's trouble. Remember what I said in the beginning? What works for you might not work for them. So make sure you're flexible. Give suggestions. If you're going to try to promote the system you use, explain to the students why it works so well for you. Give them the strategies behind it. But don't be offended when someone says, no, I don't want to do that way. That's not going to work for me. Keep working through it, asking the questions of what needs to be done and how that matches to their supports. I think more than in any other area, don't discount low-tech solutions for this. If a student wants to use a paper planner book, cool, go for it. I don't want to use that, but maybe you do. That's fine. Remember, these technology solutions are not about us. It's about the student. So how can we continue to support them? And perhaps we use a paper calendar to start the organization process and then demonstrate to them ways we can move that to a digital tool that might have other supports in it. So I think it could be a building block for a system of support. So don't discount that right away. I mean, if you came over here and tried to steal my Post-it notes, I'd probably wrestle you to the ground and steal them back. So low-tech is important. These low-tech tools matter, and they might work for someone to help keep them organized. I'm the king of low-tech. Index cards, Post-it notes, it's all over the place here. So as you go forward, good luck using this information. I hope it helps. I hope you found something in here that was of value to you. Again, if you have questions or thoughts or ideas of how you might try to implement this, reach out. There's my email address, mike@mmatp.com, my website, mmatp.com. my Twitter handle at MMATP. Reach out any way you want. I'm game. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's think about how you might use tools to help support your students. So I thank you for your time today. I hope you are well, and I hope I see you in one of the other recordings. All right, thanks. Take care.
Thank you for watching this webinar. For more information on the ATP Education Program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.